Now let's talk about the second issue. What happens when we add when two miners mine a block almost at the same time? Well, let's say at the same time, right? Like that. So now all of a sudden we've got a conflict in the chain. How is this conflict going to be resolved? So let's have a look. This is really where the consensus protocol is at its best. This is very similar to the Byzantine fault tolerance that we talked about before. So Byzantine generals problem. This is the Byzantine fault tolerance, but this is very similar to the Byzantine generals problem. Okay, so what happens? Well, this node, this block, since it's correct, we're going to assume that it's correct, there's no malicious intent or anything, it's going to be propagated through the network. So they're propagated or relayed through the network. So there we go. It got relayed to these nodes. They checked it, they checked and they accepted it. This one got relayed there. And like we're just gonna come up with like our own example scenario. So in our example scenario, maybe the connectivity here is faster, so these got propagated first, and then this one is maybe this like longer connection or something. So by the time this one got there, there's already some stuff happening here, and then this one got here. So basically the connection was faster here, and like the information spread here faster than on this side. So that's just for the purpose, for argument's sake. Of course, in real blockchains, this is much bigger. There's like tens and hundreds of thousands of nodes, and then like when they're far away, by the time the conflict happens, it's not like 2 versus 4. It's a much bigger number, but this still conveys the point. It'll help us understand better. And so now what happens is this node and these nodes are trying to like tell this node that, okay, add this orange block, but this node is saying to these guys, no, you add the purple block. And now here you see orange block, add the orange block, and he's saying, no, add the purple block. Finally, the connection's gone through. So you can see we got an issue, and this is, here you can probably tell that it's very similar to that Byzantine generals problem when you got conflicting messages going across the network. So that's why we need Byzantine fault tolerance. Okay, and so what happens? What's the consensus protocol in blockchains? We remember with the generals, their consensus protocol was to look at the average of what you're getting and the average of the messages that you're getting, and then do that, right? So somebody's saying attack, somebody's saying retreat, and then decide from there. Take not the average, take the majority, not the average, the majority. Look at the majority of the messages that you're getting and then do that. Well, in blockchain, the consensus protocol is different. In blockchain, what the nodes do is they're like, okay, that's fine. So you've got a purple block, I've got an orange block. We got 2 versions of the chain right now. So we've got competing chains. What we're going to do is we're going to wait, and we're going to wait until another block is added. And once that block is added, then we'll see which of the 2 chains is longer. And so which chain basically adds a block first, you guys or us? And then whoever adds a block first, that chain wins. So in blockchains, the term or the saying is the longest chain is king. Whichever chain has the most blocks will eventually win and replace the other chain. And the key here is that the part of the network that has the highest hashing power will eventually generate the longest chain. And it's very easy to see in this example. We can see that here we've got 4 computers, and here we only have 2. And assuming they have the same hashing power for each computer. So hashing power is basically how many hashes can you check per second. How many hashes can he check, and how many hashes can it check, and then together they have a hashing power. And how many hashes can each one of these check, and together they have a hashing power. Assuming they have the same hashing power, these guys have double the hashing power than these guys. So the orange chain is double the hashing power than the purple chain, which means that statistically speaking, these guys have a twice as high chance of finding of solving the cryptographic puzzle first. So of solving their cryptographic puzzle, because all cryptographic puzzles are equal, you just need to find the hash for the block. So these ones have so each one is working on their own, but if you add up the probabilities altogether, overall, even if they're, trying to add different blocks and so on, like this one might have certain transactions, this one might have certain transactions, that doesn't matter. Overall, statistically speaking, this group of nodes has a much higher or double chance of finding a next block, or finding the next block in their chain, whatever it is, like coming up with a block to add to their chain, because there's more hashing power. These guys have a lesser chance. And so what will happen statistically or probabilistically is one of the computers in the orange chain, let me just click here, there we go, one of the computers in the orange chain will come up with a block, and then this block will be spread across the network, so bam, 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 across their part of the network. And then now is when this conflict will get resolved, is now we can see that these nodes, this network has a longer chain, it's got 2 extra nodes, this one only has 1 blocks, this one only has 1 extra block. And so what will happen is these blocks will go to the side, and the purple network will now adopt the orange network. So the longest network is king. And so right away, the most important conclusion here is that in a blockchain, the consensus protocol means that those who have 51% of the hashing power, or just more than 50% of the hashing power, that chain will win. So in blockchain, like unlike the Byzantine generals problem, where remember we talked about like they cannot come to consensus even if there's 30% malicious or like traitors. Here they will. So in that case they cannot come to a consensus. They have to have like 70 plus on the 70 plus non-traders, or 70 plus agreeing generals to come to consensus. In a blockchain, it's better. In a blockchain, you only need 51%, and that's from what we just discussed, that it basically goes down to probabilities and hashing power. So as long as you have more than 50% of the hashing power on one side agreeing, more than 50% of the hashing power coming to a consensus, the blockchain will come to consensus. So as you can see, the consensus protocol in a blockchain is more powerful than the consensus protocol in the Byzantine generals problem. That's important to note, that there you need 70%, in a blockchain you need 50, just over 50% in order to come to a consensus. That's a very important feature, very important powerful thing about blockchains. So where do we stop? So yeah, so this conflict gets resolved. These blocks go to the side, and these blocks, are actually now called orphaned blocks. So let's do that. There we go. These are orphan blocks. And so unfortunately, the miner that mined this block in the first place, what happens is their transaction, their reward is actually contained in that block. It's in there. It's not like they got paid in cash. All the transactions, and we'll talk about this more in module 2, they're actually in the blockchain. So basically, the reward won't be valid anymore. Only this reward will be valid that miner got. And also the transactions that were in this block, they're no longer valid. So that's why it's important in a blockchain to actually wait until a couple of blocks are added to make sure that your transactions have been accepted, and then they're not part of a competing chain that's going to lose. So again, we'll talk more about those things in module 2 of the course, but for now, this is what happens. This is how the consensus protocol works, and that's it. So of course, after that, the blockchain goes to normal. Well, it is already a normal, and new blocks are going to be mined, and it's going to continue growing. So we've come to a consensus, basically. And so there we go. That sums it up. Our saga across the different realms of blockchain. We've discussed immutable ledger, distributed P2P networks, hash cryptography, mining, and finally consensus protocol. I really hope that now you have a good foundation. You can feel that you have a good foundation of blockchains, and you feel confident in going into, a heated debate where people are talking about blockchains, and you can maybe bring in the clarity and explain how things actually work, and also that you're confident in about going into the practical tutorials that are coming up very, very soon. And to finish off today's tutorial, additional reading. This is really fun. you can actually read Satoshi Nakamoto's emails to people like Hal Finney, Charles Jackson, Ray Dillinger, and James Donald, and a couple of others. So if you go to this website, again, this will be in the link, will be in the notes for the course. If you go there, you'll be able to just go to the emails and click through them and see what they said. And then this specific email, which if you go to this link, you'll go straight to this email. You'll see him talking about the Byzantine generals problem. He puts it in a funny way through like hacking a Wi-Fi, but basically in the term of blockchain. Interesting short read, and as promised, the article about blockchain consensus protocols. It's a short one and just gives a high-level overview of what other consensus protocols exist out there for blockchains, which can be also very useful. On that note, thank you so much for being here and going through these tutorials on Module 1 of blockchain. I look forward to seeing you back here next time, and until then, enjoy blockchains.